Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to say massive congratulations to Porsche on their Porsche Taycan Turbo S. Yeah, we're gonna have a few things to talk about. Before you guys lose your minds, no, I am absolutely not considering buying a Porsche. However, it is a really important car when it comes to, electric cars. So let's talk about this. Now, why do I say this? Why am I telling you guys that it's an important car? First and foremost, it is an important car because as a company such as Tesla, really nobody else has come along to even match or come close to Tesla in any way, shape, or form, despite what everybody was talking about. So obviously there's a big thing when I see somebody like Porsche coming out and actually coming close to competing to the Model S, especially in the performance department. And the Porsche Taycan is a very impressive car. It's done right in many ways, and yes, of course they're gonna do some silly stuff on it, such as a second gear. And yes, of course, the name doesn't make sense having the turbo in there. Well, those of you guys who don't know, turbo is made for regular engines, not electric vehicles. But nevertheless, I have to give credit where credit is due. And Porsche, unlike so many other manufacturers, one of the reasons you don't hear me talk about many of the other vehicles out there is because they are concepts. They're really not out there. They're not really anything worth talking about. Porsche, on the other hand, has made the effort of developing this car, and the Porsche Taycan Turbo S, it is an amazing looking car. Granted, it's not like the Mission E, which is supposed to be the this car, but nevertheless it's close enough. So the Porsche Turbo Taycan S, first of all, let's put the elephant out of the room here. There is no turbo, okay? But I want to kind of focus in on the positives here. There's a lot of negatives as well, but I want to focus in on the positives. As somebody who owns a Tesla and absolutely loves his Tesla, I would not be the one buying this car, but this car is very, very important, along with some of the other cars that have come out. One of the biggest things that Tesla, and most people don't talk about this, but one of the biggest things that Tesla has tried to do, especially Elon said this a number of times, is he wants to accelerate the manufacturing of electric vehicles. And so you hear a lot about all these Tesla killers over time, and it's amazing because really nobody has ever come close to being a Tesla killer, much less a specific model. So having somebody like Porsche come along and build the Taycan and Turbo S, I hate that turbo name in there, but coming along and actually creating a car like this, which is in many ways a wonderful car. I think it's really a very good step in the right direction. Yes, obviously it's overpriced, but this is nothing that we don't expect. This is still a legacy manufacturer, of course. It's still a Porsche, and so a big chunk of that price that you're paying for is the Porsche name and the legacy. Although the legacy in this case does not really apply, and the reason it doesn't apply is because, well, their legacy is built on internal combustion. It's not built on electric cars. As far as I'm concerned, this is their first electric car, so there is really no legacy there. The name has a legacy, the racing heritage, but again, this is an electric car. It's a whole new start. It's a fresh start. So that doesn't apply. So why do I call it such an important car? Well, I call every one of these cars that are on the market important cars. And I've avoided making videos, as when the Jaguar I-Pace came out, which, Audi e-tron, Hyundai Kona, Chevy Bolt. But that's kind of the point, Chevy, Hyundai, Jaguar, Audi, and now Porsche. And I think Porsche is kind of that thing that sets the next level, the next limit. And this is where we actually see, your typical manufacturers, the ones who work with nothing but gas powered cars, really come into play. And having somebody like Porsche in the game now, it changes everything. It shows that not only is there a demand for this, but there is a serious demand for this, and the companies are really willing to put some serious money into development. I believe this was like a $2 billion, don't quote me on it, but R&D to make this car. So it's nice to see that the legacy manufacturers are finally starting to come around and build this. And again, let's not forget that this is something that Tesla was really striving for, to accelerate this, accelerate the electrification of cars. So seeing somebody, you know, big companies such as obviously Jaguar, Hyundai, and Hyundai is a pretty big company, don't kid yourself, Audi and Porsche getting involved in this, it's wonderful. But the key reason, the biggest reason for all this is everybody who has come out with these cars, everybody neglects talking about the biggest elephant in the room aside from Tesla, and that is a charging network. And Tesla took the steps to make their own charging network. So you hear about it, you know, a lot of people talk about this, that I can take my Tesla, I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, I can go to Miami, Florida if I want, and I have a charging network along the way. I can pretty much do that. However, if let's say the Porsche Taycan Turbo S, you know, they come here, let's say I buy one tomorrow, I can't go to Miami. And it's not a question of I can't, it's just I'll be waiting forever to find places to charge because the network is not there yet. Well, this is all sounding bad, right? And here I'm saying how important this car is. So let's get into why this car is really important. Now with Porsche being in the game, and along with Audi, along with Hyundai, along with, you know, the Chevy Bolt, kind of, along with Jaguar, and now there's a demand for the infrastructure. So I think you guys are seeing where I'm going with this. When you have the big boys involved and you have the legacy manufacturers involved, all of these guys can, I'm sure, create decent cars. Personally, I think the Porsche Taycan is the closest anybody's gotten to Tesla, and everyone else is kind of in the background despite the budgets they have to play with. But the Porsche, I think it is the one that came close to the Model S, especially performance, where we can say, you know what, there's a car that can more or less do what a Tesla Model S does. In some cases even more, in some cases even better. So this is obviously a track car. It's really track oriented, and that's great. I love that. I think for some people this is exactly what they're gonna need. You hear a lot of people talk about all these cars and whether or not they're good cars or bad cars. I don't think any one of these cars are bad. You look at the Chevy Bolt, I think it's a great city commuter. It really is. I think for the city and all the stuff, even if you want to go on a little bit of a longer trips, it's just going to take you time to charge because the infrastructure does not exist. And this is why Teslas ultimately are still on top of the board. It doesn't matter who comes up with what. Until the infrastructure is not built, it's not feasible for the general public. But with Porsche now being involved in this, along with the other manufacturers, you have a question where people are going to be asking, well, where can I charge this? How far can I take this? How long will it take me to charge? Hence, it becomes a demand for the charging network. And like anything else, Tesla built its own, but no one else really has. And yes, I am, before everybody goes off on me, yes, I am aware of Electrify America and Electrify Canada, and I believe it's Unity in Europe. But the problem is those are still being worked on somewhat, and it's not like you're going to find them the same way you're going to find a Tesla charging network. So we need these manufacturers to create these cars, but we also have to be happy when they do it. When you see a lot of other YouTubers, you see a lot of people putting down these cars. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with any of the cars that have come out. I think the Honda Kona, again, a great car. It's still a charging problem. It's still an infrastructure problem. But is it a good car? I think it's a great car for the price. But then why are more people buying a Tesla Model 3 compared to the Kona? Well, it's simple. You want to have ability to use your car to the maximum capacity you can. So currently people are buying the Tesla Model 3s Even if they happen to like the Kona more, or the Chevy Bolt more, maybe it suits their lifestyle a little bit better, but they know full well they can't really go anywhere, on a reasonable trip. And I think that counts for a lot. You need to have the network. So the charging networks are not going to happen unless there's going to be a demand for it. This works with everything. The demand is what pushes the creation of anything. Everything gets created and priced properly once the demand exists. With Tesla already taking its own its own network, it worked out for them, but it doesn't help out everyone else. So we need to see the charging network grow. And I truly believe with the Taycan Turbo S, I think this is going to wake a lot of the businesses up, where they're going to say, you know what, we need to build this infrastructure. And I see that there's a higher possibility of the legacy manufacturers actually coming together and putting their own money into this and saying, let's build these networks. Can you imagine what would happen if, Audi, Porsche, Ford, GM, all of these guys would put a little bit of money into the pot and create an actual network? They could do it in 2-3 years. They could make a massive network worldwide in 2-3 years. Some of you have told me, well, ChargePoint exists, and so you can find those around almost McDonald's, Starbucks. You find ChargePoint everywhere. Frankly, ChargePoint is useless for bigger batteries. In fact, when you're charging at like 6 kilowatts, it's kind of useless, isn't it? Out of everybody that has come out with electric cars, I think the Taycan Turbo S is really one of the more beautiful vehicles that have come out, electric vehicles. And it's on par in many ways, if not better in some cases, than the Teslas. So it is possible to do this. And I know most of you guys are going to comment about the price. I agree. It's like double the price of the top line Model S. But, ultimately, the price is the price. More people are buying cars that I don't think are within their budgets. I really do see that happening all the time. But if you're gonna, for the hardcore Porsche fans or the hardcore fans of performance electric cars, I think the Porsche is a really good option if that's where they want to go down that path. But at least they have a choice. Up until now, if you basically the Tesla Model S, the P100D, for example, with Ludacris, that was one of the most powerful electric cars you can get. And finally, the people have a choice. They can go with the turbo. What if you don't like Teslas? I don't know why you wouldn't, but what if you don't? Look, not everybody, I don't want to tell people that Tesla is the only way to go, because Tesla is not the only way to go. There's always going to be a different option, because not everybody likes Tesla. Maybe it's the shape. Maybe it's Elon Musk. Maybe it's the company at large. Maybe it's all those darn vanity plates. People like having options. And this is where the Model 3, for example, has options. If you don't want to go with the Model 3, you have the option to go with a Chevy Bolt. You have the option to go with a Hyundai Kona, for example. But when it came to the Model S, especially the P100D, you didn't have anyone else to even come close to touching it. Now you have someone else. Now you have the Porsche Taycan Turbo S. I still think the infrastructure is going to be a problem, but I think Porsche, by being in this game, is going to help to build that infrastructure. It's going to help to wake people up and say, look, we need to build this out, because no matter what else we're going to come up with, it won't matter how great of a car it is if we can't charge the cars. On road trips, look, at home you can charge it, no problem. Every car you can charge at home. But what happens if you want to take it out further? As I stated earlier, I can go from Vancouver, British Columbia, all the way to Miami, Florida on my charging network. No problems at all. And they're quick chargers too. So it takes no time out of my life to charge these cars. I think this is what everybody needs. I think nobody really took seriously the how important that charging network is. But when the big boys start getting involved, and people, companies such as Porsche really start getting involved, you are going to start seeing the demand for this. And when the questions start coming up at Porsche dealerships, well, where can I charge this car? it's just a matter of time before the dealerships and the manufacturers are gonna realize that if they want to sell these cars, they have to invest into the infrastructure. It's just that simple. I'm not saying that every manufacturer has to make their own infrastructure. If you look at Electrify America, it works with, a big chunk of cars. So having a universal, kind of like a gas station, you don't have to, it doesn't matter what gas station you go to, you put in your gas, right? And that's kind of what you need for the infrastructure for people like Porsche, Jaguars, and so forth and so on, Audis. So ultimately, I think all of this is going to come together to build out an infrastructure. And I believe over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a huge expansion of the electric infrastructure. And the only way that's going to happen is if companies such as, Porsche and Audi and Jaguar keep making these cars, these amazing cars that people are going to love. And I'll tell you, just because I don't like some of these cars, it means absolutely nothing. I am in many ways biased because I do own a Tesla that I absolutely love. So I am biased, but I'm not blind. And I think this is the big difference between most people who are so blind to, Tesla or nothing. It's not Tesla or nothing. It's Tesla is the original real big company that started the electrification of cars. But there are others. There are options. The only way that those options are going to become feasible is by building out an infrastructure. Tesla's doing a really good job with theirs, somewhat. But I know people, for example, who will not buy a Tesla right now at this moment in time because they can't go from, the West Coast to the East Coast. The Canadian supercharging network is not completed yet. So if I want to go from here to Toronto, for example, from Vancouver to Toronto in Canada, I technically can, but up to a certain point, where I have superchargers, and after that, I got to rely on destination chargers, hotels, and so forth and so on. So yeah, overnight, sure, it's going to charge up, but it's not convenient. I want the fast charging network across Canada, and I've made a number of tweets to Elon about this. When are we going to expect to have this done? And I know it's coming. I expect it to be done within the next year, but nevertheless, I want to see it done. But a lot of my friends who are not buying these cars are not buying it because they can't do that. Currently, yes, with their gas-powered cars, they can do that. Now they can just basically get in their gas-powered cars and stop at gas stations along the Trans-Canada Highway and go from the West Coast to the East Coast. So they would much rather stick to the gas-powered vehicle. Whereas, as they pointed it out, if the infrastructure was in place, they would jump on this car instantly. They love the car. They just can't use it the way they want to use it. And this is the exact problem that all the legacy manufacturers are going to be facing. They're creating all these amazing cars, but people can't use it the way they would if it was their gas-powered car. Once again, a huge congratulations to all the manufacturers. Every single manufacturer that has taken the steps to electrifying their fleet and creating electric cars. There is not a single legacy manufacturer out there who is sitting down and saying this is not the future. Trust me, you have to be pretty brain dead to not figure this out. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen regardless if it's in the next 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, or 50 years. It is all just a matter of time. People have seen the advantages of electric cars, and they've seen the devastations and the bad aspects of having a gas-powered car. But the gas-powered car is still more convenient for the majority of the people, and until that convenience doesn't reach or come really close to gas-powered cars, people are going to be questioning it. Building out an entire infrastructure is going to help with that. It's going to help dramatically with that, and people will be more than happy to pay a little bit more knowing that they don't have to deal with this. Again, a huge congratulations to all the companies who have actually taken the time, the R&D, and they really have put an effort into making electric cars. I think we should appreciate these guys. These companies really, I think they're slowly starting to get it, and we have to give kudos to those. We got to give credit where credit is due. I think they've really caught on to the fact that this is something that's a good thing. So with that said, I'm gonna say thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts? So with that said, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I really hate saying that. Drive safe. See ya.